What's up, everyone, and welcome to Between the Verses. I'm Josh.
And I'm Maya, and we're so glad you're here with us today.
Indeed, we are. So, this is a podcast for young people who are curious about the Bible and Christian faith, but who don't always have everything figured out. Because honestly, neither do we.
Each week, Josh and I take one Bible-related question or topic and talk it through together. Where it comes from, what it seems to be saying, and how it connects to real life.
We want to talk honestly about faith, life, and the Bible. But keep in mind, we're not experts. We're still learning.
We've known each other for a while. Same school, same church.
Yeah, we've both grown up around faith, but in different ways. For me, I've always had questions. I was that kid in Bible class who kept asking why.
And I was kind of the opposite. I liked listening, thinking things through, and figuring out how it all connects to real life.
So this podcast is basically us having the kinds of conversations we already have, just out loud.
And hopefully inviting other people into them too.
That's right. And today we wanted to talk about something that's probably one of the most famous things Jesus ever said, but I feel like we don't always, really dig into it.
You mean love your neighbor as yourself?
Exactly that. It sounds so simple, right? But then you start to think about it and it's like, wait, what does that actually mean in our real lives at school, online, and with our families?
Totally. And who even is my neighbor? Is it literally just the person who lives next door? Is it my friends? It feels like one of those things that's both super simple, but a little complicated at the same time.
Right? So let's get into it. Let's talk about what loving your neighbor actually looks like.
So a good place to start is in the Gospel of Matthew. One of the religious leaders asks Jesus a pretty direct question. What's the most important commandment?
Yeah, and they're kind of trying to trip him up, right?
For sure. They're testing him. And Jesus' answer is just perfect. He says the most important thing is to love God with everything you have. And then he says, and the second most important is to love your neighbor as yourself.
He basically says everything else in the entire Bible hangs on these two things, which is huge. It's not just a suggestion. It's like the foundation for everything. Love God, love people.
Exactly. And in Luke's gospel, when someone else asks Jesus, who is my neighbor, we are led into the story of
The Good Samaritan.
the Good Samaritan, of course. Do you want to give us the quick version?
Okay, so basically, there's this Jewish guy who gets beaten up by robbers and left for dead on the side of the road. And the priest comes by, sees him, and just crosses the street and keeps walking.
Which is shocking, because you'd think a priest would be the first person to help.
Yeah, then another religious guy, a Levite, does the exact same thing. He just avoids him. But then a Samaritan comes along. And this is a big deal because Jews and Samaritans, hated each other. They were enemies.
Safe to say they would not have been friends.
Not at all. But the Samaritan stops. He feels compassion for this guy. He bandages his wounds, puts him on his own donkey, takes him to an inn, and even pays the innkeeper to take care of him until he gets better.
He goes so far above and beyond.
So far. And then Jesus asked the guy, so which of these three was a neighbor to the man who was attacked? And the guy has to admit it was the one who showed mercy.
So Jesus is basically flipping the question. It's not who is my neighbor, it's am I being a neighbor? Your neighbor is anyone who needs you, even someone you're supposed to hate.
We're focusing a lot on the neighbor part, but I think we're skipping over a key phrase. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself. What does that even mean? Okay, so bringing that into 2026, how does this actually work at school? Because no one's getting beaten up and left on the side of the hallway, usually.
Hopefully not, but I think it's about seeing the people who get overlooked, the new kid who eats lunch by themselves because they don't know anyone yet. Being a neighbor is crossing the cafeteria to sit with them.
Or it could be the person in your group project who is super quiet and maybe seems lost. Instead of getting annoyed that they're not contributing, maybe being a neighbor is like pulling them aside and saying, hey, are you good? Is there a part of this you'd be more excited to work on?
100%. It's about paying attention. It's noticing the need and then actually doing something, not just walking past it like the priest in the story.
And what about gossip? It's so easy to just join in when everyone is talking about someone. But maybe loving your neighbor is being the one to say, hey guys, let's not. Or just, walking away.
That's such a hard one. It's defending someone when they're not there to defend themselves. That's a huge act of love. And then there's social media, which is a whole other world.
The comment section. It can be the least neighborly place on earth.
It really can. I think loving your neighbor online means remembering there's a real person behind that profile picture. It's choosing not to leave that sarcastic or mean comment, even if you really disagree with their post.
Yeah, or maybe it's seeing a friend post something that sounds like they're having a really rough time. And instead of scrolling past, you actually send them a DM. Hey, I saw your post. Just wanted to check in and see if you're okay. Here if you want to talk.
That's it. It's that action part again. It's moving from being a passive observer to an active participant in caring for people.
Because it's easy to post a verse about love. It's way harder to actually be loving when it costs you something, like your time or your comfort.
I think sometimes people hear love your neighbor and imagine it's about being endlessly kind or cheerful or just agreeing with everyone. But when you actually read it in context, it feels more challenging than that. To me, it sounds like an invitation to slow down before reacting, to notice when we're about to respond out of anger, pride, or embarrassment, and choose something different. And that doesn't mean ignoring bad behavior. It doesn't mean pretending things don't hurt.
It just means recognizing that the person in front of you is human, even when it's uncomfortable to admit that.
That's another tough part, really. Loving people who are difficult. The person in your class who is constantly annoying, or the family member you just can't seem to agree with on anything.
Yeah, it's a real test. It's easy to love people who are lovable, but what about our enemies? Jesus talks about that too. He says to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute.
And I don't think love in that context always means you have to feel warm and fuzzy about them, or that you have to be best friends.
No way. I think sometimes it means choosing to treat them with basic human dignity and respect, even when every part of you wants to be rude back. It's a choice, not a feeling.
Choosing to not talk badly about them behind their back. It's praying for them, and not like, God, please show them how wrong they are, but a real prayer, like, God, bless them. Help them with whatever they're going through that's making them act this way.
It's not easy to want the best for someone you don't like, or someone who has hurt you.
But loving your neighbor also doesn't mean you let them walk all over you. You can have boundaries. Forgiving someone is not the same as trusting them again right away. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for them is to create some distance.
Yeah, I agree. It's not about being a doormat. You can choose to respond with grace without adding more hurt into the world. That starts with checking your own heart first.
Yeah, like, am I responding out of my own hurt and anger, or am I trying to respond the way Jesus would? Which is a lifelong process. Like you said, we're still learning.
For sure. So I guess wrapping this all up, love your neighbor isn't this one simple checkbox kind of thing.
Not at all. It's messy and it's complicated because people are messy and complicated. But it seems like it really just boils down to showing mercy and kindness to the people God puts in our path.
Yeah, no need for grand gestures. It starts with the small everyday choices we make. In the cafeteria, in the group chat, in our own families.
Trying to see people the way Jesus sees them. Everyone, not just the people that's easy to love.
So maybe a good challenge for all of us this week is to just look around. Who is the neighbor that God is putting in front of you? Who is the person who might need a little bit of mercy or kindness?
I love that. And what's one small practical thing you can do to be a neighbor to them? It could change their whole day. It could even change you.
Awesome. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks so much for hanging out with us and thinking through this stuff.
That's our first episode done. Whew, that actually wasn't as scary as I thought it would be.
I feel like we could have kept talking about this for, let's say, a while longer.
We'll save it for the next one, but for now, Josh and I hope you take what we talked about with you this week and see how it shows up in real life. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time on Between the Verses.